The sun is setting over a vast, open landscape. A person stands at the edge of a cliff, their silhouette bathed in golden light. Below them, the world stretches out, a world full of possibilities, unknowns, and unseen paths. They look down, feeling the weight of the moment. Their mind races with doubts. The breeze brushes past their face, and for a split second, it almost feels like the world is holding its breath. This is it, the moment of decision. A choice lies before them, yet they hesitate. They wonder, should they leap into the unknown, or stay safe in the land of the familiar? This scene captures a pivotal moment in life, one that every human faces at some point, the choice to embrace change. It's in these moments that we find ourselves standing on the threshold between the life we've known and the life that could be. But why is it so difficult to take that first step? Why do we cling so tightly to what we know, even if it no longer serves us? What is it about the unknown that stirs such deep fear within us? Most people spend their lives seeking comfort, safety, and predictability. We are conditioned to believe that success and happiness come from maintaining control and avoiding risk. This desire for stability is natural. After all, who wants to face uncertainty when the world offers so much predictability? Yet, in our efforts to protect ourselves from the chaos of life, we often miss the subtle signs that push us toward something greater. These signs, these pivotal moments, are often disguised as disruptions, a failed relationship, a career change, a deep personal loss, or simply an overwhelming sense of disillusionment with the status quo. The truth is that life's pivotal moments aren't accidents. They are messages from the unconscious mind, calling us toward a deeper understanding of who we are and who we could become. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, called these moments individuation, the process through which we become who we are truly meant to be. According to Jung, we are not simply passive players in life's grand narrative. We are active participants in shaping our own destinies, though often we don't realize it. The pivotal moments are like signposts along the way, urging us to step into the unknown, to shed the old skin, and to emerge as a new version of ourselves. But here's where the conflict begins. The mind, the ego, fears change. The ego, which craves stability and control, sees the unknown as a threat. It's easy to become overwhelmed by the thought of abandoning the life we know, even if that life isn't fulfilling or meaningful. We fear what we cannot see, what we cannot control. The very act of change feels like walking into an abyss, unsure of what lies on the other side. This tension between the desire for change and the fear of the unknown is something we all experience. It's the fear of facing the unknown parts of ourselves, the parts of us that have been suppressed, ignored, or buried. These fears, as Jung pointed out, are often manifestations of the shadow, the aspects of our personality that we refuse to acknowledge because they make us uncomfortable. Yet it is only by facing the shadow, by embracing these hidden parts of ourselves, that we can fully grow. Growth is not about avoiding fear or staying in our comfort zone. It's about walking directly into the unknown and learning to trust that, even in uncertainty, we will find ourselves. The fear of change is also rooted in a deeper existential anxiety, the realization that life is not as predictable or controllable as we would like to believe. In the modern world, we are conditioned to think that with enough effort, we can control every aspect of our lives. We are told that happiness, success, and fulfillment are all within our grasp, as long as we follow the prescribed path. But what if this is an illusion? What if life's meaning is not something to be found through control, but through surrender? What if we are meant to embrace life's chaos, to dance with uncertainty, and to find our true purpose not in avoiding difficulties, but in confronting them head-on? This brings us to an uncomfortable truth. We often resist change because we are afraid of confronting the parts of ourselves we've spent a lifetime avoiding. The very things that hold us back, the fear, the discomfort, the uncertainty, are often the gateway to our transformation. But in order to experience this transformation, we must be willing to surrender control, to let go of our need to predict and plan every moment. This requires courage because it means accepting that the future is unknown and that we must trust ourselves to navigate it, no matter what. Yet, despite this fear, something calls us from within. We feel a deep, almost magnetic, pull toward change. We sense that our lives could be so much more if only we were brave enough to step into the unknown. We may not know what lies ahead, but the idea of staying in our comfort zone feels even more unbearable. It is here, in this space of tension and conflict, that the pivotal moment presents itself. It is the moment when we are called to transcend the limitations of our ego and step into the vastness of possibility. The call to change is not an easy one. It often comes in the form of pain, confusion, or a sense of deep dissatisfaction with our current life. It is the feeling that something is missing, that we are meant for more, but we cannot quite grasp what that more is. It's in this liminal space, this in-between place, that life's pivotal moments are born. They are invitations, not demands. They are not meant to force us into a new way of being, but to show us that we have a choice. And the choice is simple yet profound: to continue resisting or to embrace what is being asked of us. The question now becomes, are we willing to listen? Are we willing to trust the signs that life is giving us? Are we ready to take the leap, even though we cannot see where we will land? Life does not wait for us to feel ready. The call to change does not come at a convenient time. It often arrives when we feel most vulnerable, most uncertain. But it is in these moments of vulnerability that we find the seeds of our true power. And when we are brave enough to embrace the unknown, to let go of the life we have known, we find that life opens up to us in ways we could never have imagined. This is the paradox. The very thing we fear the most is often the very thing we need in order to grow. The leap into the unknown is not a leap into chaos or disaster. It is a leap into possibility. And when we finally choose to take that leap, we realize that the unknown is not a void waiting to swallow us. It is a canvas, waiting for us to paint our lives with new colors, new experiences, and new meanings. But how do we recognize these pivotal moments when they arise? How do we know that we are standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to jump into something new? This is where the wisdom of the unconscious mind comes into play. The signs are there if we are willing to see them. Life is always speaking to us if we are willing to listen. The question is, will we take the leap or will we stay safe on the edge, afraid of what might happen if we finally let go? The story of our lives is not written by fate. It is written by the choices we make. And in each moment, we are faced with the choice to either resist change or embrace it. Life's pivotal moments are not obstacles to be avoided. They are invitations to grow, to evolve, and to become the person we were always meant to be. All we need to do is listen, trust, and take that first step into the unknown. When we speak of change, it's impossible to ignore the internal forces that shape us, often without our conscious awareness. One of the most profound concepts in Carl Jung's psychology is that of the shadow. The shadow is not some mystical force, nor is it something to be feared in the way we typically fear monsters in the dark. Rather, it is the collection of all the aspects of ourselves that we repress, ignore, or fail to recognize. These elements, our insecurities, our unacknowledged desires, the parts of our personalities we deem unacceptable, remain hidden in the recesses of our psyche. It is only when we confront the shadow that we are truly able to transform. Throughout our lives, we are taught that in order to be accepted and loved, we must present the best version of ourselves to the world. We learn to hide our flaws, to bury our weaknesses, and to pretend that we have it all together. The pressure to conform, to fit into a mold, becomes so pervasive that we lose sight of the parts of us that are deemed imperfect. And yet these imperfections, these darker, unexplored corners of our psyche, are not the enemies we often imagine them to be. They are the very seeds of our growth, waiting to be integrated into our conscious selves. Jung believed that the shadow is not inherently negative. In fact, it contains immense potential for self-discovery and personal power. The shadow is a mirror of what we could become if we were willing to accept all aspects of ourselves, not just the polished, acceptable parts. By recognizing and integrating the shadow, we can tap into a reservoir of strength that lies dormant within us. This process is what Jung called individuation, the journey toward becoming our authentic selves, beyond the social masks we wear. However, the journey to face the shadow is neither easy nor pleasant. The truth is, it's often uncomfortable. The ego, that protective layer of our psyche that insists on maintaining control and stability, fights against this confrontation. The ego thrives on the illusion of certainty, of a carefully constructed self-image. When we face the shadow, we challenge that image. We risk losing the person we've worked so hard to become, only to realize that who we are beneath that image is something far more complex, far more human, and far more powerful. This brings us to a fundamental question. Why do we fear the shadow so much? Why are we so resistant to the parts of ourselves that are not perfect? It is because the shadow holds our most primal fears, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the fear of being seen as weak or vulnerable. In facing the shadow, we must also face these fears, and the prospect of doing so often feels overwhelming. Yet, it is in confronting these fears that we find liberation. In Nietzsche's philosophy, there is a concept known as the Übermensch, or the Overman, a person who transcends conventional morality and societal norms to live authentically. The Übermensch does not shy away from life's chaos. Rather, they embrace it. They dance with their own darkness, acknowledging that life is filled with contradictions and complexities. Similarly, Jung believed that in order to become who we truly are, we must confront the parts of ourselves that we reject. Only by doing so can we transcend the limitations imposed by our own self-deceptions. The shadow, in this sense, is not a monster to be slain, but a teacher, a guide, helping us move toward a more integrated and complete self. Yet, most people spend their lives running from the shadow. The urge to suppress uncomfortable emotions, anger, sadness, fear, is so ingrained in us that we hardly notice when we are doing it. We distract ourselves with busyness, with external validation, and with the pursuit of success, all in an attempt to avoid facing the parts of ourselves that remain hidden. But what we fail to realize is that these unresolved, unacknowledged aspects of our psyche do not simply disappear. They shape our behavior, influencing our decisions and relationships in ways that we don't always understand. For example, the person who continually strives for perfection may be compensating for feelings of inadequacy or shame that they refuse to acknowledge. The person who constantly seeks approval may be hiding deep insecurities about their own worth. These unconscious patterns are often linked to repressed parts of the shadow, parts that hold the keys to the very change we seek. The transformative power of facing the shadow is not just about overcoming fear. It is about understanding ourselves on a deeper level. When we begin to explore the shadow, we come face to face with the unspoken truths about our lives. We may realize, for instance, that our deepest fears about failure are rooted in experiences from our past that we have never fully processed. We may discover that our need for external validation is a defense mechanism built on early experiences of rejection. By bringing these unconscious patterns into the light, we can begin to heal and move forward with greater clarity and strength. This process of self-exploration is often depicted as a kind of alchemy. Just as alchemists sought to turn base metals into gold, we can transform the base elements of our psyche, our fears, our shame, our insecurities, into wisdom, compassion, and personal power. The shadow is not something we must eliminate, but something we must learn to integrate. By doing so, we no longer live in fear of our darker aspects. Instead, we learn to embrace them as part of the larger whole of who we are. But how does this integration happen? How do we move from resisting the shadow to accepting it? It starts with awareness. The first step is simply acknowledging that we have a shadow, that we have parts of ourselves that we avoid or deny. This awareness opens the door to deeper self-reflection. We begin to ask ourselves the hard questions. What am I afraid to face? What parts of myself have I hidden away because I think they are unworthy of love or acceptance? What am I avoiding by staying in my comfort zone? Once we begin to engage with these questions, the process of integration begins. We start to notice the moments when our shadow rises to the surface, the moments when we feel triggered, angry, or sad, but can't quite understand why. These are the clues, the signposts that point us back to the parts of ourselves we've ignored. By facing these moments head-on, we begin to break down the walls between the conscious and unconscious mind, allowing for deeper self-acceptance. Jung argued that the shadow is not just a personal phenomenon, but a collective one as well. In societies where certain emotions, behaviors, or identities are stigmatized or suppressed, the shadow is often projected onto others. This is why we see so much judgment, division, and conflict in the world. We are projecting our own unacknowledged shadows onto others, rather than confronting them within ourselves. True healing, both personally and collectively, comes when we are willing to embrace the shadow, not as a source of shame, but as a vital part of our shared humanity. The call to embrace the shadow is not a call to perfection, but a call to wholeness. It is a reminder that we are not meant to be flawless, but to be fully human, with all our contradictions, complexities, and imperfections. Life's pivotal moments often demand that we face the shadow, that we confront our fears, our pain, and our deepest insecurities. But it is through this confrontation that we are able to grow, to evolve, and to step into a fuller, more authentic version of ourselves. It is only by accepting the darkness within that we can truly appreciate the light. In the depths of transformation, there comes a moment when everything changes. It is a point of no return, a moment of clarity where the confusion and fear of the unknown fall away, and something new begins to emerge. This moment doesn't always come in a dramatic burst, but often in a quiet realization, the kind of moment that catches you off guard when you least expect it. It's as if the world pauses for an instant, and in that silence, you come to understand something profound. Life's uncertainties, its suffering, and its chaos are not things to be feared or avoided, but embraced. In fact, it is through embracing these very forces that you unlock your true potential. This realization often begins with a shift in perspective, from seeing life as something to control, to seeing it as something to engage with. It's the understanding that you cannot plan for every eventuality, and that trying to control every outcome only leads to frustration and disappointment. This is where the leap of faith comes in. It is not an act of blind hope or reckless abandon, but a conscious choice to surrender to the flow of life, to trust that even in the most uncertain moments, something greater is at work. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, spoke powerfully about finding meaning in suffering. His philosophy was that suffering, in itself, does not have to be meaningless. In fact, it is through the suffering we endure that we are often called to discover our deepest truths. Frankl's experience in the concentration camps was a testament to this. Even in the face of unimaginable pain and despair, he found that his capacity to choose his response to his circumstances gave him freedom. This is the essence of the leap of faith, the ability to choose how you respond to life, not out of fear or avoidance, but with acceptance and courage. In these moments of transformation, you begin to realize that you are not a passive observer of your life. You are the one who decides how you will respond to the challenges that come your way. The leap of faith is not about waiting for the perfect moment or for everything to align. It's about trusting that no matter what comes, you will have the strength, the wisdom, and the resilience to face it. It's about taking that first step, even when you don't know where it will lead. This is where the tension between control and surrender becomes crucial. Control is often a defense mechanism. It's a way to feel safe, to feel as though you have some power over the unpredictable forces of life. But in trying to control everything, we inadvertently create resistance. Resistance to the very flow of life that could carry us to new heights. When we let go of the need to control, we are allowing ourselves to be swept into the current, trusting that it will lead us exactly where we need to be, even if we can't yet see the path ahead. The leap of faith is about trusting that life's pivotal moments are not random, but purposeful. The challenges and obstacles that arise are not just there to test us, but to help us discover who we are truly meant to be. By embracing the unknown, we are acknowledging that we are not defined by our past or our fears. We are defined by our ability to evolve, to learn, and to grow in the face of uncertainty. In this moment of transformation, the resistance that once held you back begins to dissolve. The fear that gripped you, the hesitation that stopped you, all start to lose their power. You realize that the very things you once feared are not nearly as daunting as they seemed. The leap of faith is not about eliminating fear, but about moving forward despite it. It's the act of acknowledging your vulnerability, your uncertainties, and your fears, and still choosing to move forward. It's in this act of courage that true transformation happens. This insight that you are capable of moving through life's challenges not by avoiding them, but by embracing them, is what changes everything. It's the recognition that change is not something that happens to you, but something that you actively create. The pivotal moment, the leap of faith, is not a singular event, but a shift in how you engage with life itself. It's a mindset, a willingness to embrace the unknown and to step forward into the next chapter of your life, no matter how uncertain it may seem. It's at this point that the narrative of your life begins to shift. You realize that you are not the victim of circumstance, but the creator of your own destiny. The obstacles you once saw as insurmountable are now challenges to be overcome, opportunities to grow. This doesn't mean that life becomes easier. It just means that you are no longer afraid of it. You begin to understand that life is not about avoiding pain or discomfort, but about finding meaning and purpose in the midst of it. The leap of faith is often followed by a period of stillness. After the leap, when you are suspended in midair, there is a brief moment of quiet reflection. It's in this space that you begin to see the deeper truth. Life doesn't have to be controlled, because it's always in motion, always evolving. The leap of faith was not about finding a destination, but about embracing the journey itself. You realize that you are not alone in this process. Every person who has ever faced uncertainty has, in some way, made the same leap. And in doing so, they have discovered something profound about themselves, something that could not have been understood without the willingness to face the unknown. This transformation isn't always easy, and it doesn't always feel like a victory in the moment. But looking back, you begin to see the wisdom in what you have faced. The leap of faith was not a one-time event, but a series of choices. Choices to step into discomfort, to trust yourself, and to allow the forces of life to carry you forward. In the end, it is through this acceptance, this surrender to the flow of life, that you find the peace and clarity you were seeking all along. At the heart of this transformation lies a powerful insight. Life is not something to be controlled, but something to be experienced.